And that's another thing that I like about this model is that we actually imported. We think that we're the great exporters of innovation in the United States. And there's wonderful things going on in the developing world that we can learn from too. So he brought that model here. And since that time, it's really been the domain, so micro enterprise development, and there's a spectrum of services, everything, and Amber will go into that a little later, but from financing to business training. We brought that here to the United States, and WIBIC was a very early adopter. This really started in all earnest in the late 80s, and I think you formed in the late 80s, right? Yeah, so we have a wonderful institution here in WIBIC who's really been a leader across the country, so a lot that we can learn from Amber and her folks, and I'm really excited to hear her talk. So, but it's been the domain primarily of not-for-profit agencies. And one of the things about the field, because it's really hard work to do, and it's very labor-intensive, there are some for-profit micro-enterprise places, particularly where they can reach scale. So across the rest of the globe, there are starting to be some for-profit, and you heard some of the dangers of that with those rates getting back up. But it's been the nonprofit world here that's been involved in this market space. A lot of places, CAP services, several of the CAP programs across the state have wonderful lending programs. I work with CAP services. I work with AvoCap. Both have long lending programs here. One of the things about the field, though, is a challenge. I kind of came in and did a business feasibility study. One of the challenges is the field is really highly fragmented in the United States, so we don't have a big national provider. There are a couple of firms like Axion that do supply in many parts of the country, but mainly these 500 programs, and I think there's a few more than that, are located across, they either have a local focus or a regional focus. Another program with a lot of bipartisan support. This is stuff that people rally around. This is like bootstrap entrepreneurs, and people like that idea across the political spectrum. Thank you. So what is a micro-enterprise? It's a very, very small business. Technically, it's 5 or fewer employees. A lot of folks, the owner is the sole operator. So you could basically think of someone who's self-employed. So my colleague earlier asked, a question. You want to take a guess at how many folks we're talking about? What percentage of folks we're talking about in the U.S. economy of folks who fit into this market space? Anyone want to throw anything out there?
35.
What's that?
35%.
35? That's a little high, but it's still really significant. And these numbers are up. I crunched these numbers a few years ago. It was like 18%. So it's up, and you can imagine it's up with the soft labor market, a lot of accidental entrepreneurs. But it's 21% of all private non-farm employment. So more than 1 out of every 5 workers. We don't think about that. We think about business being big, don't we? But business, small business is the backbone of our economy. It's, 88% of all businesses fit into this, sphere of micro enterprises. And there's a spectrum there, there's a spectrum of needs. It's not one micro enterprise. You can think of someone that would fit in the sphere that might need less help. So also you have to have some traditionally been shut out of either the capital markets or had a difficult time accessing services, that kind of thing. So those are the folks that we target in the micro enterprise development field. They need additional help. They need business training. They need financing. They need something to help them with that dream of owning a business or taking their existing business and growing it. So some information about the typical U.S. micro entrepreneur. They're fairly well-educated folks, and most of them have experience in whatever they're going to produce. You're not teaching them to produce, how to bake bread or how to weave baskets and things. What you're teaching them is some of the business acumen that they may or may not feel comfortable with. They come in intuitively with a lot of great business skills, and in fact, I'm humbled. I learn things every day from the people that I work with. They give me way more than I ever give them because they just intuitively, just like you talked about with your folks that you're working with overseas, they understand what to do. But business is hard here. We have a lot of regulation. It's mind-boggling, Just to get to the farmer's market in the city of Appleton, there's 25 pages of regulation, like, if you sell tomatoes, you got to weigh them versus if you sell this. I mean, lots of regulation for people to kind of sift through. So that's our job, is try to figure out what some of that regulation. And a lot of those commercial kitchens are really good at helping folks do that too. I send a lot of people to their commercial kitchens because it helps them get started earlier and it helps them kind of with that expert knowledge that they're going to need.